Most of us consider ballpoint pens as writing instruments only, but not Jacqueline Suowari. She creates her visual art through thousands of ballpoint pen strokes, which make up every single piece of her work. She's here to speak on her work, inspiration, and exhibition. Welcome to the morning show, Jacqueline. It's good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Great. All right, then, we must admit that your form of art is quite unusual. You will agree that many artists find the use of ballpoint pen in illustrating art. They find that it can be quite difficult. Now, share with us when and why you decided to use this method to create your art.
I actually started using the ballpoint pen when, right from secondary school. When, of course, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with that, when your teacher is teaching and you're bored, so you start scribbling at the back of your book. Yeah, I started doing that. Then, as I got older, I realized that I liked the contrast that the ballpoint pen would give me when I draw, especially the black ballpoint pen. So that's where I started. But I took it on professionally in 2011. I had to prepare for an exhibition. This is after I had studied painting in school. I had to prepare for an exhibition, and then I decided, oh, let me just do a drawing, and then let me just use the pen. And then I started with the pen, and then I didn't look back after then.
Right, so Jacqueline, let's talk about your layering technique, because you do a lot of layering when it comes to the work. So what does it do for your art pieces, and what does it mean for your work as well?
Okay, so it's two things. The first thing is, in drawing, there's a technique called hatching. But I don't like to just use ordinary hatching. I like to do the layering. And I have this layering as a metaphor because I like to look at each stroke as an experience of a human being. And each experience we have, all the combination of experiences, create our general character who we end up becoming. So in my work, I use the layering like some kind of, I use it as a metaphor to create the experience, the human experience. So when you say complete work, it's not just the drawing and the strokes, it's also representative of our general experiences.
All right. Well, you've had your artworks exhibited in both local and international exhibitions, and now you have this new exhibition, Now I Wear Myself, which opened on Friday in Abuja, and it's ongoing till next week, correct? Now, tell us the inspiration behind the exhibition.
Actually, I'm going for 6 weeks.
6 weeks. I saw till the 30th of July, so it's more. So it's 6 weeks, right?
Yes, it's more.
Okay. Tell us the inspiration behind this exhibition, and since Friday, has it lived up to your expectations?
Okay, so the inspiration behind the exhibition was during the lockdown, I was already building a body of work, and I noticed that, I got this fascination with the face mask, and then I understood that a lot of people were finding, of course, we had to find safety and protection from wearing the face mask and all that stuff. But I decided to take a deeper look into it, and I realized that more than the face mask, human beings, we have this art of masking ourselves. Like, I can't be wearing a face mask when I'm talking to you right now, but I can actually be masking who I really am. And I decided to, try to push this, I don't want to say gospel for lack of a better word, but just push the ideology that we should all be bold and brave enough to be our true selves, irrespective of the consequences that may follow. And considering the show, it's really been amazing, and the feedback, the turnout, everything has been really overwhelming. I haven't done a solo exhibition in Nigeria before. This is my first time, and the feedback is really good, really good.
Right, so how did you make the transition from holding exhibitions here in Nigeria to holding exhibitions globally, particularly the US, where I understand that you've held a few there, but you can correct me if I'm wrong if you've only had one or two?
I've had a couple of exhibitions, maybe more than a couple in the US, yes. It's just, I feel like the internet played a huge role because of social media and stuff. So they found my work, we found each other. And then there's this gallery abroad that I was working with, doing serious collaborations with. They were representing me exclusively for a long time. And I think social media has helped creatives generally have more exposure to the Western world. And yeah, that's how I found them, and that's how they found me.
Beautiful. You've done really well for yourself. You know, you have said that a single piece of art sometimes takes several months to produce. I'd like for you to walk us through your creative process. And what would you say has been your favorite art piece and why?
Okay, let me walk you through my creative process. So first of all, I have to have inspiration. I'm usually inspired by micro expressions. I call them subliminal expressions. The expressions that lay behind the expression that you see when you meet a person for the first time. Most of the time, people are faking expressions. I like the ones that come when the dust has settled, when nobody is looking at them. So I find those expressions. Sometimes we have to do like a photo shoot. Sometimes I collaborate with photographers. But at the end of the day, when I find the expression I'm particularly looking for, the one that's just right there, I decide, okay, yes, okay, so we've gotten this photograph. The next thing is to draw. So I draw on large scale paper in the studio. We transfer the photograph to a drawing. Then I start with the ballpoint pen. Now the ballpoint pen thing, it can take between 4 weeks to 6 weeks to complete one, because as you know, they're very large. And yeah, after the drawing, then I now start painting. Pretty much so. I just summarized it, but it's about 6 weeks work, yeah.
Yeah, well, that is your creative process. I asked another question about your favorite art piece. Which is it? Has it sold? How much did it sell for? Where is it? And what is it, if there is one?
Okay, so my favorite art piece right now is at the exhibition here in Abuja. And it's titled How to Scream So No One Can Hear You.
Okay, has it sold?
It hasn't sold, of course. It's still at the exhibition.
Yeah,
it's at the exhibition, but definitely I'm sure it will sell very soon.
What is the history behind that? And why is it your favorite art piece?
Okay, so the reason why it's my favorite art piece is because I used that particular work to talk about a lot of people's struggles, especially with mental health. How people look normal outside and they have all these battles they're fighting inside. How people can't really tell that something is wrong with somebody or somebody's heavily depressed, and how somebody has all these mental challenges because they all look normal. Everybody looks normal until you really dig deep and find out that there's something wrong. And nobody really stays to say, how are you, like really? When you meet people outside and they meet you and say, hello, Jacqueline, how's everything? I'm fine, thank you. That's all. They don't really want to know how everything is, you know. And that's what that work is actually talking about.
Okay, so I wanted to go back to the length of time and your creative process and how long it takes you to actually complete a piece of work. And from what you said earlier on, it takes you about 4 to 6 weeks. Now, I wanted to find out how you keep yourself motivated throughout that time period, because I would imagine if I were the one looking at the same piece on a daily basis, day in, day out for the next 4 to 6 weeks, 6 weeks will probably drive me crazy. So how do you keep yourself motivated to keep on until you finish?
Okay, so first of all, it's discipline. I had to discipline myself. So I start work at the studio 9:30 or 10, and I close by 5:30 every day, Monday to Friday. I had to do that discipline. So whether I don't feel like, I'm still drawing. And then I listen to music. I love music a lot. I get my inspiration from music too. So yeah, those two things keep me going.
Great.
And maybe, yes, the finished picture, the idea of the finished picture too.
Right. Well, I am interested in that favorite piece of yours, so eventually we'll talk about that after the show. But I wanted to ask you, what would you say is the advantage of a female artist, or advantage a female artist has over a male artist, if there is any?
I don't think there's any.
Okay.
I don't think there's any. I think art is a general language, just like asking me whether there's an advantage over somebody a guy who can speak English and a woman who can speak English. What's the advantage? So I don't think there's any advantage. I think it's a universal language.
A lot of artists have said that, but some analysts have said, you know, when you see a work of art from a female artist, it's, you know, sometimes exposes some sort of emotions that you generally don't see from, a male artist. I guess you don't agree with that.
Okay, so
okay, good.
Okay, no, well, I can see where that comes from because, like I said, I talked earlier about the idea of masking, and somehow I think the male gender has had it rough with how to express their emotions. Society has kind of forced them to form some kind of mold, to fall into some kind of mold where they can't really express emotions, where they can't really be bold enough to cry, bold enough to be vulnerable, and so that kind of restricts their expression. I think that's where that kind of ideology would come from. And women are, nobody frowns at a woman for crying, But of course, we have our own fair share because an angry woman is a bad woman. So men can be angry and women can cry.
Okay, so I want to go back to your exhibitions that you've had in the past. Apart from this recent one that you're holding in Abuja, I think the last time you held an exhibition was in 2019. And it makes me think that perhaps the pandemic has had an impact on you hosting exhibitions. Is that the case? And what were the challenges that you've gone through during the pandemic period in terms of hosting exhibitions?
Okay, so I think for me, during the pandemic, the first concern was to stay alive. And then, of course, was concerned about your friends, your family, everybody should just be fine. And that kind of affected my creativity in the sense that today there was a lot of uncertainty at the time. And so I couldn't really create work. I couldn't really focus in the studio. So that was responsible for that.
Mm. So what do you think about the evolution of the Nigerian art scene as we see it now? It seems like it is growing from, the time that we first started seeing ArtX. I would love your analysis on that.
I think it's amazing. I think it's something that is long time overdue because Nigeria, as you know, is blessed with a lot of creative people. And I think that, it's about that time. And I believe actually that it's going to be more, it's going to be explosive. This is only the beginning. This is just the beginning, really.
All right. Okay, so I think it's not just art that we get from you. You've also been engaged in some speaking engagements as well. Just very briefly before we go on a break. You've engaged in some speaking engagements as well?
Yes.
All right. Well, Jacqueline,
yes,
right before we go, I wanted to just quickly ask you how we can purchase your art piece, because I definitely do want one. They are beautiful, stunning.
So at the moment, the works are being exhibited with Retro Africa Gallery. It's here in Abuja. It's a simple thing. You just contact them and they'll tell you what to do.
Well done, and good luck to you. It's time now for a short break on the morning show.